The Ramban has a very, very important, it's really a foundation to Yiddishkeit. And as we go through this Ramban, if you notice that there's no questions at the end, but I have by each place, I want to summarize as we go through. So for example, you have the first piece, and then I have three mistakes, I should have written this better, but three mistakes that people make about HaShem or HaShem's existence, right? So after we go through the first piece, we'll write down those three mistakes. After we go through the second piece, we're going to talk about three psukim and which mistake or which notion each pasuk dispels, and that's something we should be able to answer after we get done with the second paragraph, and etc. Truth is, as we go through this Ramban, like any good and true thing, it's obvious, most of it. Most of it is stuff that people know. But like any true and good thing, it's something that people constantly have to remind themselves and talk about and ruminate over. So let's see how this goes. The Ramban starts off talking about the Makkos, and he talks about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and he talks about how Yetzias Mitzrayim is a very, very important foundation. And we'll jump in the middle of the Ramban. Va'ata oimer. Guys got that paragraph up on top? Va'ata oimer. And now I will say, I'll say to you, klal. I'm going to say to you guys a rule, betam mitzvahs rabbis, for the reason of many mitzvahs, right? All day long we have mitzvahs. We start in the morning with a negelvasser and a maidani, and then we move on to brachas and tefillin and shachris, kriyishma, learning Torah, mincha, more learning Torah, eating, brachas. I'm going to give you a reason for many, many of the mitzvahs that we do. Hine, mi'es heyois avodas gilulim. From the time that avodah zara, that avodas gilulim, avodah zara came into practice ba'olam, yemei enosh, all the way back to the days of enosh. Heichelu adeyes lishtabish be'emuna. People started to get confused, and people started to start messing up, and to get twisted deos, to get twisted outlooks or beliefs. And he's going to list these twisted mistakes that people make, and he's going to summarize it into three categories. And those are the three that you should get down. Let's start. Mehem koifrim be'ikr. There are those people that make the mistake, and they deny the entire existence of Hashem, v'oimrim, and they say, ki ha'olam kadmain, that the world is an original existence, that the world that we have, planet Earth, it was the first thing to ever exist. There's no Rebbeinu Shalom that existed before the world. Kachashu b'Hashem, and they deny that there was a creator that created the world. V'yoimru, and they'll say, leihu, it wasn't Hashem. The world exists without a creator. There is no God, there is no higher power that was the original existence and is the source of all that's created. So that's the first mistake that people made when they started going in the ways of Avodah Zarah, is that there is no God. There is no God. God doesn't exist. What? Oh yeah, people still make these. Yeah, these mistakes have not been. Yeah, these mistakes haven't been fixed. He's just tracing back. When did these mistakes first come about being? Well, by the times of Avodah Zarah, and people are still making these mistakes today. Yeah. What? That's a good question. Not believing in God is Avodah Zarah. Not believing in God is what leads to Avodah Zarah. At least one part of leading to Avodah Zarah. You could believe in God. Well, not believing in God is something that leads to Avodah Zarah. It's not tantamount to Avodah Zarah, because Avodah Zarah literally means servicing something other than God. So if you don't believe in God and you don't serve anything, so everybody serves something. But whether it actually fits in the category of Avodah Zarah, but not believing in the Rebbeinu Shalom, not believing in an original existence, that everything that was created came from that original existence, leads to Avodah Zarah. That is one of the ingredients in the recipe that brings a person to Avodah Zarah. And that's one of the mistakes that people made that led them to Avodah Zarah. Okay, next category. We're at the third line, second word. Umehem, yeah?
Why is he even saying that? Like, that's an obvious mistake that people make.
Yeah. He's going through the three mistakes that people make about Hashem and his existence, and then we're going to talk about, well, how do we deal with that? How do we prevent ourselves from falling into that trap? Because it's a very attractive trap to fall into. Because if you don't believe in an original power, so then everybody gets to do whatever they want. I want to eat. I wanted this. I wanted that. I can do whatever I want. There's no original power. There's nothing. There's nothing that's setting the tone for what I need to do. There's no purpose. Yeah. Okay. Second mistake. Mehem. Third line here. Mehem machishim b'yidiyasei hapratis. There are those that agree. Okay, everything has to come from something. There must have been an original, all-powerful existence. But there are those that say that they deny that HaShem has a detailed and individualized knowledge of what's going on in this world. They omru, and they say like this: Eicha yada kel. How could this powerful God know v'yesh dea be'elyon that lives up in the skies and he knows, and he knows what's going on down here? Okay, there's an original existence, but that original existence is not aware of what's going on now. Right? So to speak, a mashal would be is somebody creates something and then they walk away from it. Right? I don't know, when I hit 80 years old and I retire and I don't know, move off to Eretz Yisrael or whatever it is, right? Or then somebody else runs this yeshiva. I don't know what's going on here anymore, right? Right? It happens all that, right? You could create something and then leave it alone and not have a knowledge of what's going on. So that's the second mistake people make. Yeah, we understand that there has to be an all-powerful original existence. Everything comes from somewhere, and there has to be an original to that. But who says, these people that are led to Avodah Zarah, who says that this original existence, that this Rabbeinu Shalom, this HaShem, knows what's going on? That's the second mistake. Let's go to the third one. Umehem sheyoidu biyadiyah. There are those that, okay, I get it. This all-powerful HaShem that created everything. You may want one of these because you're going to have to fill it in. I know you're new. And he knows what's going on. However, this is what they deny. Bahashkocha, that Hashem actually runs and conducts the world. V'yasu adam k'degei hayam, and that he's going to... And that, okay, so the Rebbeinu Shalom knows what's going on. He created the world, and he knows what's going on, but he created people similar to like the fish. That Hashem doesn't really hold them accountable, and he doesn't manage them. He just puts the fish in the ocean, and the fish live in the ocean. They live in the water. There's no punishment to fish. There's no reward to fish. Fish don't have a mandate of what they need to do, what they need to accomplish. If they do well, they can't do well, but there's nothing waiting for them at the end of the line. I don't know, maybe they could turn into a piece of herring and be put on a cracker, covered Shabbos, right? So this is a third mistake that people make, that people are like fish, that the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't manage us and doesn't give us directions and doesn't have demands from us. And Yoimru, and they'll say, Azav Hashem es haaretz. Hashem knows what's going on, but he lets the world go. He created a nature and he lets the world go and he doesn't actively manage it. Kasher yirtzel ikim be'eda oy biyachid. Oh, okay, that's already the next part. Okay, a question. That's a good question. I thought about that for a while, right? So the first one we have, people just deny an original, all-powerful existence, right? The second one is that people agree that everything has to come from somewhere, but Hashem isn't aware of what's going on. Because let's go with something called the Big Bang Theory, right? That people understand that there was some sort of original atom that created some sort of explosion, some sort of original existence, and it created some sort of energy, this original existence, and it created the world, right? Which, if we go with that, and we keep it at that, meaning I don't think it's necessarily a problem to go with that, but if we keep it at that, and that's the beginning and the end of the story of creation, so then it would be that this original atom created an energy that created the world, but it doesn't have knowledge of what's going on. So the first mistake would be saying that there's no original existence. Okay, now maybe there is an original existence, and maybe that original existence is, let's call it HaShem. But that original existence doesn't have the ability to know. It doesn't have the ability for knowledge, to have what me and you would call a thought process. That there's no awareness of that original ability of that original existence, what we're going to call HaShem, it doesn't have any awareness of what's going on. So that takes us to step 2. Now, even if you would have an awareness of what's going on, but who's to say that it's actively being managed? So if you want to start with original existence, we'll give you that much, and we're going to call it an atom. We're not going to call it HaShem. So that would mean, there's an atom, but an atom doesn't know what's going on afterwards. The atom just did what it did. It created some sort of reaction, and it created this beautiful world. And the world exists without that original creator's knowledge of what's happening. So that takes me to step 2. Step 2, that would be that mistake. There is something original, so they're okay with step 1. Everything came from original power, but they would be running afoul of that original power having a sense of knowledge of what's going on in the world. So that means they're checked off 1, but they have an X by box number 2. Now, getting to true belief, or the third mistake, which is lower down on the totem pole, it's lower down on the list, is that original power that created the world, we got that, it actually knows what's going on, it's capable, it's a source of knowledge, so it knows what's going on. It's not an inanimate object, it's a living thing, whatever living means in the terms of Rabbeinu Shalom. So it has knowledge of what's going on, but it doesn't manage. It doesn't have demands. It doesn't have directions for us. And that's why he brings the mushel to the fish, right? I mean, we know that there's a malach that, and the Rabbeinu Shalom manages every blade of grass, and every blade of grass grows only because the Rabbeinu Shalom tells it to grow, and certainly by fish and animals like that. So it doesn't mean that the fish just exist without management, but it means is that there's no management as far as we have demands from you that this is how you should perform. This is what your purpose should be. That people, so to speak, would chas v'shalom be like similar to fish, where we just exist and what we do does not matter. What we do does not matter. And that would be the third mistake people make, that okay, I got it, there's an original source of energy that created the world. Okay, that's good. I got it that this original source of energy is a intelligent existence. It has intelligence and has the ability to know things. I got that too. But the third one is, we're not managed. There's no important goal or purpose to what's going on here. We're similar to a blade of grass or fish that has no inherent purpose or goal. And that's the third mistake people make. Question?
Yeah, are these the same as the things that the first time Makos were supposed to do?
Could be. There's different ways of grouping the different makkos as to exactly what message was Hashem trying to send Parai. And there is I think it's a Malbim or a Beis Levi, somebody that kind of groups the makkos. That comes from the Tanaim. Well, Abarbanel does that he groups these things, that each group is dispelling a different mistake. But these are the 3 common areas that lead people to. And we're not talking about people that do bad things because we're human beings and we have taivas and we're pulled back and forth, right? That's normal. That's everybody. That's daily existence, right? That's not what we're trying to work on over here, at least with this Ramban. We're talking about foundations of what we know to be true, right? So just because a guy has got a hard time waking up for chakras every morning, it doesn't necessarily mean that these things are shaky and they're at stake. It just means is that he's a flesh and blood human being that's drawn also to laziness and to comfort and to doing what he wants to do sometimes, right? Over here we're talking about grave mistakes or the importance of the very foundations, okay? So these are the 3 things. Now continues on the Ramban. So at this point everybody should have been able to fill in those 3 mistakes. Yeah, question. Okay, so that's an important thing too, and I don't want to jump deep into it. I'll give it a moment. What we view as avodah zarah nowadays, everybody needs a sense of purpose, right? So, could be on a non-intellectual level, people could go to avodah zarah, but it's not because they have faults with these things. It's just that they're so lazy and they're so entrenched in their desire that they can't align what they know to be true with their heart, which is what they want to be doing with themselves. So therefore, and you get this all the time. Well, how do I know there's Hashem? Well, you know there's Hashem. You do know, and you do know there's an original existence, and any thinking person should be able to come to these conclusions. But people will still go ahead and push it away because they have a hard time reconciling their desires with what they know. So if a guy says, I have a problem with, you don't have a problem with Yiddishkeit, you have a problem with self-control. You have a problem with doing what you need to do. And it's not because of the intellectual understanding of it. It's just because we're human beings and we have a netiya towards laziness and desire. It's a different conversation. Over here we're talking about the intellectual mistakes or the intellectual things that we need to solidify in ourselves to hold as very basic truths.
What did they need this for?
What?
You're saying that we use our actions.
Because I think a higher person that's not going to be led around the nose by his stomach and his reproductive organs, right? A higher person does try to align his actions with what his intellect tells him is true. So if a person wants to align themselves with this and they don't have these intellectual foundations set straight, so then it would lead them off.
You're saying this is actually what they think?
This is what a higher intellectual person would be thinking and serve Avodah Zarah. This is the only conclusion. If you think that what you're doing is right, if you really think that what you're doing is right and it's intellectually honest, these are the conclusions that you're going to make. They're false conclusions, but these are the conclusions that you're going to make. Okay. Where are we? So Hashem will create a miracle by changing the normal way the world works, v'tivay, in its nature, and yizbar l'chol. And then it becomes clear to everybody, bittul hadeyas ha'ela. That it becomes very clear to everybody that these three things, these three suppositions, they're really very, very big mistakes. Kulam. Because a wonderful miracle, a public miracle, it shows that there's somebody that's on top of all that's created, because at their will they could bend nature. And he knows what's going on in the world, otherwise there's no knowledge of what's going on in the world to create the miracle. So creating the miracle also shows that it's an intellectual being and it knows what's going on. And that he manages and he has the ability to run these things. So an open miracle, if all of a sudden somebody witnessed Makas Dam, if somebody witnessed Kriyas Yamsuf, so it would immediately dispel these three notions. Because obviously if the sea could split, that means that the sea is beholden to something above it. If the sea could split, that means that something above it that the sea is beholden to knows what's going on with the sea. And not only that, but it can manage the sea. It can manage the sea.
When they came up with this in the first place, it was just trying to find an excuse to something that they can tell themselves that is true. So let's say that would happen, they could just say, so when the world was created, it was said that at this time the world was the sea was.
I'm not 100. Yeah, I don't. Again, you're going back to that first thing that I thought where I'd like to move past, right? These three things. What was the origin? What was the origin of these three fallacies that people came up with? That there is no original existence, and this original, if there is one, it's not an intelligent existence. And even if it is an intelligent existence, who says that it manages and has the power to manage? Right? What was the nature? Was it taivas that brought people to that?
Someone says that every.
It's all taivas.
Bad midas. You don't want to be beholden.
Bad midas, right? You don't want to be beholden. So it could very well be that is really the root for everything. Because if something is an inherent truth, so then if you're going to deny that inherent truth, so it has to come from somewhere. It can't be because I intellectually understand the different inherent truth. Because if it's an axiom, if 1 + 1 = 2, right? If you want to deny that 1 + 1 = 2, it can't be on an intellectual level. So you are right. It all has to start. The root for all these deviations have to be because people are being led by other than pure search for the truth. Okay, let's go on the second paragraph. Yoimar hakasu b'moifsim. So now, as we go through these makas, all these wonderful public miracles that the Rebbeinu Shalom did in Mitzrayim, the pasuk has three different ways of kind of describing what their purpose is. First one is, and guys, this is going to be number one, Laman Teida, in order that you should know, Hi ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, that I am Hashem amongst the land. Says Ramban, L'hoiros, this shows al hashkacha, that Hashem manages. I'm Hashem where? I'm Hashem in the world, right? I manage this world. He loy ozav oisa lemikrim. And Hashem did not let the world just happen the way it's going to happen, but rather He actively manages it. Kedaitam, like the people that make the mistake think. So the first pasuk he takes is Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz. What does Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz? I'm Hashem in the world. What does that mean in the world? I'm the manager here. I'm the guy in charge of this world. And if it's snowing outside, I did that. And if Shmili had a nephew born last week, well, the Rebbeinu Shalom managed that too, right? And if everybody came out alive and well and healthy and it's a cute gurgly baby, so then that's the Rebbeinu Shalom, right? And if Chas v'Shalom, other things should happen, that's the Rebbeinu Shalom, He's a manager. That's the first pasuk. The Amar, and another pasuk says, Leman te'da ki la Hashem haaretz, that the world belongs to Hashem. It's not in the world, but the actual globe, the world, the existence, all that exists belongs to Hashem. L'hoiros, and this shows us, ala chidush ki heim shaloi, anything that's existence, anything that's been created belongs to Hashem. Shabara me'ayin, that He created them from nothing. So, what? Yeah, so I would want, so the first one I would want, Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, and that shows that Hashem manages the world. So that dispels actually notion number 3, that Hashem doesn't manage the world. No, Hashem says, Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, and that's exactly what Mendel was bringing up, and the truth is, this one said Ramban, but this is really the Ramban too, right? The Ramban is saying that the makas, as we go through the makas, Hashem says, why am I bringing this makkah? Ki Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, I'm Hashem in the land. What does that mean? I manage the land. Second reason Hashem says for Makkos is Leman Teida Ki Hashem haaretz, that the world belongs to Hashem, that He created. If you created it, it belongs to you. The Amar, and then the third one, Bavor Teida, in order that they should know, He ein kamoini b'chol haaretz, that there's nothing like me. There's nothing like me in the entire land. That Hashem is unique, He's singular in the entire land, and that He says L'hoiros al yecholos shu hashalit b'chol, to show that Hashem has the ability and He rules over everything. Ein ma'akev biyadoi, and there's nothing that holds Him back, and there's nothing that holds Him back. So the third one, and this might get a little sticky, but the third one is Bavor Teida, in order you should know, Ki ein kamoini b'chol haaretz, that Hashem is the all-powerful in the world, and He has the ability to do as He pleases. Omnipotent.
The world that He made. That's the world that He made, which is the first extent. But they're not in the same order.
No, it's not in the same order, and it's not only that, it's not even in the same order. It's not exact, because he's breaking down the hashkacha into...
The first one is kind of the third one, and the second one is the first one. And
So I would say the first pasuk, Ani Hashem bekerev haaretz, is... Yeah, the second one, that Hashem knows what's going on in the world. The second pasuk is Laman Teida Ki Hashem haaretz, that everything belongs to Hashem, that Hashem created the world. And then the third one is, in order that you should know, Ki ein kamoini b'chol haaretz, that Hashem is the all-powerful. That Hashem dictates a purpose for every single person, and He is powerful to make those demands and changes. Now it continues on the Ramban. I'm going to skip a few lines. Ubavur, and since Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yasa oisu meifes b'chol dar leinei kol rasha, a kofer. Hashem is not in the business of making miracles in every single generation, and every time a rasha stands up and says, I don't believe there's a Rebbeinu Shalom, I don't think the Rebbeinu Shalom cares, I don't think the Rebbeinu Shalom could manage me, or could do bad or good to me, could reward me or punish me. Any Rasha that gets up in any generation and says that, HaShem is not in the business of making miracles to go ahead and disprove that all the time. He did it once. Yitzava oisanu, so what does HaShem do? He commands us, shenase tamid zikaron va'ois. We should always make a reminder and a sign. Lashir ro einenu, to the things that we saw by Yitzias Mitzrayim. V'natik hadover al benenu, and we should go ahead and tell this over to our children, ubeneim livneim, and then their children to their children, all the way till the end. So the Ramban says, why are we commanded to make a reminder of this? Why are we commanded to make a reminder of this? Because Rabbeinu Shalom is not going to go ahead and make a miracle every time some pinhead gets up and says the Rabbeinu Shalom doesn't manage the world. Yeah, well that's that last question there, right? Why do we have to make a reminder of these things? Because we're about to get into all these mitzvahs that we have are reminders of these things to dispel these three notions that there is no Rabbeinu Shalom and he doesn't manage the world and he's not all powerful. And the reason is because Rabbeinu Shalom is not going to make that miracle to shut everybody up all the time. He's not going to do that. What? So that's right. So we need to go ahead and we need to take those miracles that happened to your great-great-great-great-grandfather all the way up to Arnakayan cats, right? Right? You have that pretty clear. You're like Ben Achar Ben Arnakayan, right? Right? I hope, right? So you need to do things to remind yourselves of this. Why? Because the Rabbeinu Shalom, and if you think about it, the more I say it, the more it makes sense to me. It's like, how come somebody...
If there's really HaShem.
Yeah, if there's really HaShem, why doesn't he go ahead and breathe fire, give me the winning lottery ticket? You know what? You get the winning lottery ticket, you're not going to believe that it's HaShem anyway, right? Right? Why doesn't he go ahead and... drop a brick of gold from heaven, right? I'm not going to even answer. I'm just saying if you think about it, the Ramban's saying that that's not the way the Rabbeinu Shalom does it, but an all-powerful thing, and especially after we've talked a little bit that the root for these disbeliefs is because the person's being led astray by himself. An all-powerful existence is not, it wouldn't make sense that they should be doing that constantly. It would take away a sense of purpose, a sense of direction from us. It wouldn't be an appropriate conducting of an all-powerful existence to a guy who says, well, I'm not in the mood of putting on tefillin today. So his Rebbe says, why not? So the guy says, well, it's because I don't think tefillin matters. Well, that's not really what's happening. He says he knows tefillin matters. He's just too lazy or too this or too that. He wants to stick it to his Rebbe or is looking to get some sort of deal if it's one of those Rabbeim that like to make deals with them. So it wouldn't be an appropriate, sensible thing for the Rebbeinu Shalom to go ahead and zap that guy with lightning on the shoulder. Hey, buddy, you better put on tefillin. It wouldn't make sense. The Rebbeinu Shalom revealed himself by Kriyas Yamsuf, and our grandparents were there, and we need to remind ourselves of that. Yeah, it's true. It happened long ago, but you know what? But your great-great-grandfather was there, and it's their job to transmit that. So you're saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, why can't you do it? I don't know, every what? However you want it. Every 100 years, every 1,000 years? Does anybody doubt that the Civil War happened in America?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm saying as thinking people, not as somebody that just wants to pipe up and show how smart they are. Does anybody doubt that the Civil War happened?
No, probably.
Okay. Can we go back a little bit? Does anybody doubt that there was a French man named Napoleon? Well, no, I don't think so. You want to go a little bit before that? Does anybody doubt that there was a Greek conqueror named Alexander, or Macedonian conqueror named Alexander? What do they say? The Christians don't deny this. They say things changed. Christians don't. No, that's a different schmooze. That's a different schmooze. Nobody's denying that these things happen. The whole Christian schmooze is that the Rebbeinu Shalom sent us into Galus and got fed up with us and sent us out to the pasture and picked somebody else. So that's a totally different schmooze than what we're talking about as the foundations of the existence of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Right? It's a totally different schmooze. And a lot of times people like to bring that up, just it comes from a very uneducated thing. It's just a line that people like to throw out there. You could talk about athlete's foot or acne for the same price. It has just as much to do with this conversation as that. It's right. It's just coming from a Q&A's gone wrong in a drunken stupor on a Shabbos Nachamu in a camp where a bunch of guys are sitting around and whatever they say sounds intelligent because they're 6 inches into a bottle of cheap tequila. Right? It's not. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not blaming you. You're part of this kumbaya society of Laffy Taffy cotton candy Yiddishkeit, where guys just say, "Oh wow, yeah, that guy's deep." Right? It's nothing to do with it. That is first you have to have what do Christians believe, right? Because your question premises that you know what they believe, and you're saying. And then you're bringing it into this conversation. You don't know what they believe is that the Rebbeinu Shalom did the Churban, he sent us off to the pasture and chose somebody else. It has nothing to do with these core beliefs that we're talking about.
Either way, so the kid with the film now, he doesn't call him film because he's lazy, but he knows it's important. But they're for sure.
Okay, maybe he thinks that it's true that the Rebbeinu Shalom forsake us and chose somebody else. I don't think that's what guys are grappling with.
You said the reason the kid doesn't put on film is because he's lazy. Even though he knows it's important to him, but I guarantee you, if you take 115-year-old kids and a lot of these yeshivas, they'll say, no, it's just not important.
I know that's what they'll say.
No, it's because it's not
No, but they
important
mean
enough.
it.
What? No, they mean it, and I know they mean it. But it's not because it's intellectually not there. It's because I can't be bothered to do something that goes against my base desires for other things. To be tired, to be cranky, to be mopey, to be in a bad mood.
They're not doing it because
They really are. They really, really are.
There's things that are important to
it's not true
productive life,
because
but they don't think that.
if you told them that if they wake up at 9 a.m. they can go to the Browns game and go wake up at 9 a.m.
That's right. Because and waking up at 9 a.m. to go to the Browns game does not show that a person's motivated to be to not be lazy. That's the same thing.
It's just that when even if someone
Oh, yeah, what they want. It's desire motivated. I get it. It's desire motivated, and that's why Katz is trying to bring this into that. And I really want to separate that into a different topic right now. What people, and I'm not saying it's a human. I'm not saying it's a teenage thing. I'm not saying it's a yeshiva baruch thing. It's a Yishai Kutov thing. It's an everybody thing. We all struggle with being human beings. We all struggle with being human beings, and it's okay. And it's kind of the point of life to struggle with being human beings, right? But it is also important to keep the conversation honest, right? It's very important to keep the conversation honest, and those struggles don't necessarily mean that there's a flaw in our foundation of emunah. Is everybody getting that? And I know everybody wants to twist the conversation into the struggles because that's what's relevant to us on a day-to-day basis, and we have those conversations all the time, right? And again, there could also be very suited for your Matzei Shabbos Nachamu Kumsitz in camp, was it Stay Chemed or Dora Golding or wherever it is, right? And they usually go a lot better when you're 6 inches down into a bottle of whatever, right? Fine. I'll continue on. Okay, let's keep on going. Vahitzrich shenichtoiv Kol ma shenire eleinu ba'oisais v'moifsim. Hashem made us. He required from us that we should write. Hashem required us that we should write all of these miracles al yadeinu, on our hands, in the form of which mitzvah? Shaya? Tefillin. The al beineinenu, and between our eyes, in the form of which mitzvah? Shal. Good. And to put them on the doors in the form of this mitzvah. And we should mention this with our mouths b'boiker in the morning with Shema. Sukkah b'chol shana, to make a sukkah every year to remember what? To remember what? Yetzias Mitzrayim, the clouds, right? V'chein kol ki yoytze ben mitzvahs rabbis, many mitzvahs zecher liyetzias Mitzrayim, to remember leaving Mitzrayim. V'kol liyois lanu b'chol adayros edus b'moifsim, that we should testify by putting on that tefillin, by saying that Kriya Shema, by seeing that mezuzah, by building that sukkah, by eating that matzah. that we shouldn't forget, right? We are proclaiming every day when we put on the tefillin that the Rebbeinu Shalom did these miracles, and we believe in these three things. We believe that there's an original existence, that he's an intelligent existence, and that he manages us and is powerful to manage us. Okay? Those are the things. So I asked for 4 mitzvahs. Ramban, there are many more mitzvahs Ramban didn't mention, but he gave 4 examples. What are they? Well, there's tefillin, there's mezuzah, there's sukkah, and there's Shema. I didn't say it in order, right?
2 last ones.
Yeah. But the point of this is that we are... Read it through, you have it. The point of these mitzvahs, and so many of our mitzvahs, is that we should constantly be saying, why do I have a mitzvah? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom did a miracle for us. What was the miracle? Yetzias Mitzrayim. What's the point of that miracle? To show me that he exists, to show me that he is intelligent, and to show me that he has the power and he manages. Flip over the page. Before we start reading, let's just read the English here. Yedias in HaShem is the purpose of what? It's the purpose of what? No. It's the what? No, Yedias means knowledge of HaShem, or belief in HaShem is the purpose of. You said it before. Before that. Creation, existence. V'hi kavanas hayitzir, and that's why God created whatever existence or whatever creation exists. She'in lanu tam acher b'yitzira rishayna. And that's all that God created for, and that's all he wants from us, is to recognize that he exists, he's an intelligent being, and he manages and has the power to manage. That is the purpose of the Yediyas and HaShem, is the purpose of everything, of existence. That a person should know that HaShem created him. And what are we doing when we're in shul and we're screaming to Hashem? What's the purpose of that when we say Psukkah Zimmer, Berchas HaShachar? And who said Berchas HaShachar this morning? Cats, right? Again, right? And I answered Amen. What's the purpose of him shouting out Pekeach Ivrim and me answering Amen? What are we doing? We're saying these 3 things. The Rebbeinu Shalom exists, he's intelligent, and he's powerful and manages the world. That's all we're doing. And he goes, the kavanas batei knesias, and that's the purpose of shuls, that we get into shul together all the time, every time, and we scream these things out. And why do we do it in shuls? That people should do it. We should have a power, like a comfortable place, right? Every location has its purpose, right? You go to the gym to work out. You go to the doctor's office to get healed, right? You go to the to the restaurant to eat, right? So what do? You go to the shul for the purpose of all those things. So the very purpose of the world is just to be makir that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom and that he runs the world. That's the purpose of the shul, and so that's the place where you do it. Every necessity that a person has in life has a place where it's done. And he says, and that's and you should say in front of Hashem, and I love these 2 words, Briyosecha anachnu. That is in 2 words what you are saying when you daven. Briyosecha anachnu. Somebody translate that for me. Briyosecha anachnu. Somebody, come on, Salander, translate that. Briyosecha, the last 2 words in that paragraph. We are your creations. That's it. That's it. That is what we are doing in shul. That is all the davening, all this long siddur, which has got 400 pages, whatever it is. That is summing up the siddur. That is summing up what we're doing in shul. That is summing up that we're doing for hours upon hours every week. That's what we're doing. We're saying 2 words. It all boils down to Briyesecha Anachnu. We are your creations. Now, once we get that, let's go on to the last part. Briyesecha Anachnu, we're your creations. That we're recognizing that we are created by God, we're managed by God. It's the answer to every single thing over here. I'm not really, because I'm not going to give you credit if you write the same thing, because it's specific answers. But the common gist of the answer to every single thing here is the same thing. These 2 words, Briyesecha Anachnu, you've created us, you're intelligent about us, and you manage and control us. What? You didn't hear what I was saying? You actually asked the question as I was answering. Which one? Purpose of shul, to have a place to go ahead and do it. To have a place to go ahead and to proclaim the purpose of life. Okay? Last piece. Umina nisim hagedaylim amufursamim. And once a person, now the big miracles, that's easy, right? When the Yam Suf splits, and when I walk outside, and $100,000 rains down from the sky, right? That's easy. Those are big miracles, right? So umina nisim hagedaylim amufursamim. And from the big famous miracles, Adam Moedesh, a person will admit and will come to realize benisim anistarim, even the small things, the quiet things, the things that we don't notice, the things that we just think kind of happen. Shehem Yesayda Torah Kula, and that's the foundation of the entire Torah. That if you understand these things, and the big miracles lead us to this understanding, it leads us to this intellectual understanding of the existence of Rabbeinu Shalom, right? What about the small stuff? What about that your hair grows? What about that you had a good day? What about that you had a bad day? What about that you missed your flight, you missed your train, or you made your flight, you made your train, right? What about all the small things that happen in our everyday life? That somebody created double bubble so that you should have what to do during this year, right? Well, what about all these other things? From the recognition of the big things, we come to recognize that all these small things, the pencils that you're writing with, the copy machine that spit out these papers, right? We come to realize that all of these things are also from HaShem. Umikrim, behold verenu mikrenu, and all the things that happen to us, shekulam nisim, everything's really a miracle. Right? Let's go back to Shmili's nephew, right? It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's insane what goes on over there from conception to birth, right? An absolute fantastic miracle, right? Ein behem teva, there is no teva, there is no real nature, shalaylam. Bein barabim, bein biyachid, a public thing or a private thing. Nothing that happens in your life is natural. Elim yasa mitzvahs yatzlichenu. If we do mitzvahs, Hashem will make us successful. Scharai, and He'll give us reward. Vim yavar aleim yachrisu einshoy, that the punishment will destroy us if we go against mitzvahs. And akol b'gzeres elyon, everything that happens is from the Rabbeinu Shalom. Not only the big things. The big things lead us to this intellectual understanding because there's no other way to go. But once we understand the big things that they come from the Rabbeinu Shalom, once we understand that there is a Rabbeinu Shalom and He manages the world, so then we look at every single thing that comes to us as a nace. So I said recognition, two-part recognition. So what's a two-part recognition? Yeah, that the little things come from Hashem. And that we're going to be rewarded in punishment, and reward and punishment. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but okay. That the big things lead us to understand the small things. Big things lead us to understand the small things because that's a tough job over here. It's a tough job to go through normal daily routine in life and to realize that stuff comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom, that everything's from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Okay.